Amandla uzoyithola kanjani? Uhlele khoneni. We are the future. No one can stop us. We are the future. No one can stop us. We are members of the African National Congress and we are alive. We are members of the ANC Youth League and we are alive. We are members of our society in South Africa and we are alive. Roar, young lions, roar. Thank you, Comrade Malusi Gigaba, the former president of the ANC Youth League, and all presidents present here of the Youth League, Comrade Lulu Johnson, and comrades, the Secretary General of the Youth League, Comrade Rapu Muligani. Rapu is now the ambassador in Paris. He flew all the way from Paris to Johannesburg. Before he left Paris, he said, "What is this thing of court interdict?" This man and Peter Mokaba raised this generation of young people. And we salute him and his generation of the South African Youth Congress present here. We salute the generation of 1976, represented here today not as a generation, but still alive among us, Billy Masetla. You only know him as a spook, you know, as an intelligent person. But he's a very dangerous generation. Comrades, I want to urge you at some point, before that, to salute the leadership of the ANC and to thank the Deputy President, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, to be among us here and open this Congress. We thank you, Comrade Deputy President, and the leadership of the ANC present here. I know Comrade Naledi Pando was not introduced, but is also here. The ANC have sent us a very high-powered delegation. Abantu abakwazi ukucabanga, abantu abakwazi ukukhokhela. We want to thank you, even though we know that thanking you, it is part of our job on a daily basis. Treasurer General, Deputy Secretary General, you spend money on this Congress, you spend money on this Youth League, because you know what the Youth League must fulfill in terms of its historical mandate. Thank you very much for being here and for honoring us with your presence. We know that tomorrow the president and the only president, Mhlanganyelwa Gedleyihlekisa Jacob Zuma, will be with us. The president is traveling abroad to extend our word of solidarity and strengthen our international relations, in particular with the People's Republic of China, as it celebrates 70 years anniversary of the war with the Japanese and the defeat of fascism. The president will be here tomorrow to give us, early in the morning, you must wake up early, don't be late, a keynote address. Comrades, I want to thank our fraternal organizations, the PYA, which were all acknowledged. We want to thank our friends who were introduced here for coming to this Congress and for continued belief in the work of solidarity and the fight against imperialism. Comrades, I want to ask you all delegates to stand up and remember and not forget heroes in this organization who came before us and those who parted ways, who are part of this generation. I want to single out Comrade Castro Esaumure. I want to single out Tulani Mashaba. These are the comrades who have led the ANC Youth League among this generation and who have been very much committed. I want to salute the comrades who came before us. Jegis Lebi, Peter Mukaba, Fawcett Matebe, Pachana Mukwena. The list is endless. From the beginning of the beginning, 1944, Anton Limbede and his generation, to the last, Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo. This is the African National Congress Youth League. I want, comrades, before we present the political overview report to this Congress, ask all our delegates to stand up and observe a moment of silence to remember these fallen heroes. Amandla. Amandla. Comrades, when we came in this Congress, our enemies said we will go naked. We will tear each other apart. We will embarrass the African National Congress. And yet what we have seen is a determination to get here. Even some among us giving birth, fighting to come to Galaga Estate for the celebration of the ANC Youth League. Comrades, this is the beginning of an important period in the life of the African National Congress Youth League. You came here, you displayed courage, discipline and determination. Understanding, Comrade Deputy President, the politics of the African National Congress. Gathered here are all comrades from all 9 provinces, from all branches of the ANC Youth League, representing branches of the ANC Youth League across the length and breadth of South Africa. Gathered here are political commissars of the ANC in the future. Gathered here are a bunch of winners in the African National Congress. I saw other comrades when our comrades from MPLR raised the sign of peace. They thought it's Kaizer Chiefs. But that is Bafana Bafana, comrades, that will unite us, leave everything. We are gathered here, comrades, to honor our own commitment to the historic struggle for the liberation of our people from the vantages of colonialism and apartheid. The nature of the challenges that the Youth League faces today obligate us to look deeper into ourselves, to find answers on a number of very critical questions. On this very important occasion, comrades, we must look back if we are to look forward with clarity, lest the ugly past dim the future we seek to build. It is an occasion for self-introspection, as much as it is an occasion for firm resolve on where we must go. While some of us were still part of the Youth League, we drew lessons, comrades, from Marxism-Leninism, particularly on the theoretical outlook of historical and dialectical materialism. Among such leading communists from whom we derived profound lessons was one of the foremost revolutionary internationalists, Che Guevara. In his letter to the Youth League of the Communist Party of Cuba, Che Guevara's advice on the youth were instructive as it is relevant for today's challenges. Che Guevara instructively charges the youth of the Communist Party of Cuba to study why things happen the way they do as a premise to finding solutions on the various social, economic, and political challenges. On this occasion, comrades, it is imperative not just to forge a way forward, but also to investigate and analyze on how we got to where we are today. What none of us can deny, which is self-evident, is that the challenges the ANC Youth League is facing, socially, politically, and economically, are unprecedented. Compounding the challenges which inevitably makes this National Congress unique in many respects, comrades, are the organizational challenges that speak to the internal processes of the Youth League. Comrades, this is an unprecedented, and it is a message we sought to drum even during the preparatory PGCs, that none of us must take pride on the abnormalities where National Congress is convened through the facilitation of a national task team that has been appointed by our glorious movement, the African National Congress. Flowing from this very act wherein the ANC intervened, there was bound to be challenges vis-à-vis the autonomy of the ANC Youth League. It is unprecedented because, in spite of the fact that the ANC took this decision during its 1942 and 1943 annual national conferences to constitute the ANC Youth League, it is ultimately fell on the Youth League within the ANC to actually work out the launch of the organization, which was done in 1944. The Youth League chose the best among the Youth League which served before as part of the evolving generation to convene and be part of the task team of this Congress. Even the relaunch of the ANC Youth League following the 1990 political unbanning occurred as a result of the youth within the African National Congress. Many who had taken various leadership roles in the youth MDM structures, such as the South African Youth Congress, as well as the student organizations. Comrades, it is important to reflect on these historical facts on this occasion, so that we appropriately put into context why we are here and where we are going. Thus, the history of the ANC Youth League unequivocally state how we should have navigated the various challenges that were faced, and we must ask ourselves and answer the question, why the recent developments in the organization manifested themselves in the manner they did. One of the foresight that guided the Youth League activities post-1991, relaunching KwaNdebele, was the need for organization to adapt to the changing times. Whilst the Youth League boldly stated its manifesto in 1944, the mission of the Youth League had to take into cognizance the fact that we were in 1991 on the course to imminent takeover of power as the African National Congress. That is why the Youth League adopted the twin tasks, which is to champion youth interest and mobilize the youth behind the banner of the ANC. Given the Youth League has failed to adequately chart its path without the intervention of the ANC, it seems probably that in spite of our desire to adapt to the new changing times, perhaps that was not enough. As an organization steeped in the revolutionary theory of historical materialism, we should have foreseen the challenges that were to beset the Youth League. Similarly, we should be able to foresee the challenges that the ANC itself is besieged with. All structures of the ANC and the alliance have faced serious challenges in recent times. Against Che Guevara speaks from his grave that we should study why things they are the way they are. When we speak of the ability to foresee, we are not suggesting that any supernatural or superstitious abilities, but we are speaking in reference to the laws of change that Marxism-Leninism has expounded on us. We are speaking of historical materialism as a scientific investigative tools to the problems of society, socially, economically, and politically. There is no better measure of the actual manifestation of dialectics as the relationship between the Youth League and the ANC. As all of you should know, the 1944 generation were baptized into the contradictory but uniting features as dialectically explained. The generation of Tambo, Mandela, Sisulu, Nkomo, Majombozi, and many more relentlessly challenged the ANC on both policy and leadership issues. But they never defined themselves out of the African National Congress as an independent organization within the ANC. a mistake that the Youth League has done in the recent past, inculcating cult within its ranks at the expense of a collective. The Youth League must pride itself of collective leadership rather than cult. But as it has been said before, the difference between 1944 generation and the leadership collective that was disbanded by the ANC comrades was political discipline. Whilst the ANC Youth League 1944 generation contested the ANC with regard to its internal policy and leadership processes, the disbanded Youth League actually challenged the ANC in the public domain, and for this reason effectively ceased to be the Youth League of the ANC. The Youth League under the disbanded NEC vulgarized the ANC and effectively became its biggest political opponent. Daily, the Youth League waged war against the ANC policies and berated its leadership. A new opportunism that cultivated the cult of youth leaders prided itself with perpetual opposition of the ANC, purporting to be more radical than the ANC leadership, whilst advancing ill-conceived policies on nationalization. Fact is, nationalization, comrades, is not necessarily a socialist tool. Some countries that are known to be capitalist have nationalized certain industries, while some countries known to be communist have privatized certain industries. And all this, the appropriate policy is on the balance of the evidence of effectiveness. What must be clear to the Youth League members is that whilst the Youth League can assume various radical postures, the ANC is not a narrow ideological organization, but a broad church encompassing socialists, capitalists, religious people, traditionalists, and others in a diverse membership. Thus, the ANC cannot sing a narrow ideological currency because it must enlist a broad spectrum of our people in its mobilization behind the vision of the NDR. That is why the ANC, we say, it is a multi-class organization. There must be no illusion about the powers that the Youth League has with regards to the changing of the course of our struggle. The example of 1944 generation speak volume about dialectical relation between the Youth League and the ANC, specifically with regard to policy and leadership issues. The Youth League in every society carry the energy, radicalism, and vision to change the social, economic, and political conditions as they exist. But in so doing, comrades, you as the Youth League must go to the structures of the ANC and influence them to take up your policy and leadership proposals, including the National Conference of the ANC, as it were during the Watershed 1949 ANC conference. In this was you will be the reason for dialectical change within the ANC, which is essential if the ANC has to make meaningful strides into the future. Dialectics teaches us of the dying old that seeks to hold on against the tides of the emerging new. It is precisely this theoretical outlook that informed the Youth League stance on many other issues in the African National Congress. Alternately, what we call continuity and change with regard to policies in general. When I said that perhaps we have not adequately addressed ourselves to the challenges of adaptation, it is because we have underestimated the impact of new conditions in the new dispensation vis-à-vis liberation struggle informed by the NDR. There is difference between unity occasioned by the common opposition to colonial and apartheid opposition on the one hand, and unity amidst the vast opportunities of democracy that accrues to us as individuals. The latter occasioned a scramble for resources with behaviors alien to the historic traditions of the organization, which can be characterized as a period of crass materialism. The Deputy President warns us against that. The Youth League is not a vehicle for self-enrichment and cult in the organization. You earn 20,000 in Lutuli House, but you own mansions and farms. This is not the Youth League and its membership that it must actually embrace. We must abhor any Any sense of value that seek to define any youth, that crass materialism and any other thing, it is something that we celebrate. But we should have been wrong if we had assumed that commitment to struggle in the new dispensation will follow same traits as before 1990, even when clearly the conditions have qualitatively and quantitatively changed. One area where we have lagged behind, comrades, in spite of the many resolutions in this regard, is continuous political education and the induction of all new members beyond the mere oath of membership, as it is the entry point in the ANC, Youth League, and the ANC, is now through the election of leadership. Before new members could even discuss any policy or political theory, they are already voting cows to elect leadership. Even if those elected were to fulfill constitutional obligation, but the manner by which leaders at all levels of the organization are elected lends a lot to the culture of self-aggrandizement, a road that is unethical to all that the organization stands for. Crass materialism becomes the norm, and it undermines how the organization is perceived in society. Of course, young people must be associated with good life, but materialism must not be the face of the organization, more so against the abject poverty of many of our people. National Congress must therefore take a new look into the resolution that have been passed by both the Youth League and the ANC on political education. It must be clear to all members that the elected leaders must never be about factional interest, but the political mandate as per Congress resolution at all levels of the organization. If you contest as the prescripts of our internal organizational democracy, those who lose, either with a small or a big margin, must throw their weight behind those who have won. These are the lessons of the African National Congress. We are not going to stop anyone from contesting in this Congress. We are not going to stop anyone to contest in this Congress for any other position. You are allowed to contest. Some of you have crisscrossed the country lobbying on television, even though you thought that it is like a reality show, the Kim Kardashians. But nonetheless, we have allowed all of these comrades to happen because we want to unban lobbying in the organization. It must not be a secret. Every comrade must lobby to the last of your lungs, and then you enjoy the victory of democracy. We have allowed you, comrades, to do all of these things because we pride ourselves of a vibrant youth organization. We must thus deal with the new manifestations in the ANC Youth League, where anarchy is presented as militancy, ill-discipline as radicalism. Taking the organization to court, comrades, as a political recourse is a fundamental misunderstanding of a recourse in the organization. Manipulation of organizational processes and all other tendencies that have increasingly come to define structures, they must be abhorred. In all this, the Constitution and internal democratic processes are supreme. Internal remedies that seek to circumvent the exposure of the organization from external reactionary or counter-revolutionary forces whose sole aim is to defeat the revolutionary agenda must be understood. Thus, the elected leadership must seek to restore the integrity of all internal organizational processes. We must thus expel the rascals and demagogues who are not prepared to embrace our revolutionary ethos in the organization. We must expel those who undermine internal processes with impunity for self-advancement at all costs. We must fire those who think that courts will determine the way forward. We must do a rain check, comrades, on mechanisms we have put in place in the past 20 years on convening of structures for purposes of congresses. We must evaluate the various organizational processes whose subjective weakness may be mortgaging the league to the highest bidder. We must deal with a new form of the bureaucratic bourgeoisie, which is negative for the movement. We must respond collectively to these challenges. The ANC has always learned from the Youth League, and we have always learned from the ANC on how to deal with challenges of this nature. The National Congress must give us those lessons through the resolution that you will make. Even though we seek to build a mass-based organization quantitatively, we must never lose sight of the qualitative progress in membership. Radicalism, comrades, must not be defined within a course of action that utilize our ascendancy to government as a basis to the decisive intervention, as stipulated through the concept of the developmental state. It must be a program that considers the high levels of youth unemployment and marginalization as abnormal. Hence the correctness of the war cry from the last National Congress with regards to economic freedom in our lifetime. Beyond progressive rhetoric, National Congress must stipulate how in the balance of forces nationally and internationally, such radical progressive programs can be implemented with agency. Not all is doomed, comrades. You've got everything to celebrate as an ANC Youth League. The ANC Youth League influenced the ANC in the shift in the strategy and tactics, in the relook and adopting the second transition, and saying that this phase is about economic freedom. That came from you as the ANC Youth League. Leave people who have stolen slogans and left with them. The slogan economic freedom resonates with you. Currently, comrades, there are ongoing SRC elections, and the Progressive Youth Alliance has done very well, in spite of the fact that we have had no NEC for some time now. Part of the discussions that this National Congress must be seized with, comrades, is the role of the ANC Youth League branch in the institutions of higher learning. We must stop the contest of leadership between SASCO and the Youth League. We must embrace, comrades, SASCO as the leader of the students and the ANC Youth League branch, strengthening the hegemony of SASCO and all the progressive forces in the institutions of higher learning. We can never abdicate, comrades, our responsibility as a liberation movement on the role we must play in forging transformation through institutions of higher learning. By definition, comrades, the advanced minds, which some prefer to call the vanguard, are often products of the institutions of higher learning. Of course, our take is that there are also organic intellectuals that are a product of the practical experiences of struggle. Institutions of higher learning play a critical role in shaping the mindset of a nation as well as a country's development. Hence, the Youth League can never afford to leave that to chance. We must also take pride that we have consistently been at the center of youth development in South Africa as the ANC Youth League. The history of events and the process since 1994 speak volumes about our role as the ANC Youth League. From the inception of the former National Youth Commission, with its provincial chapters as well as Umsobomvu Youth Fund, to the current situation where we have the National Development Agency. It should be remembered that it was the Youth League that called for the collapse of the UIF and the NYC in order to streamline youth development institutions, comrades. Again, in spite of the organizational challenges the Youth League has faced, the organization did make inputs into the National Youth Policy 2020. Of high importance is the Integrated Youth Development Strategy that must spell out details on how national departments, provincial government, and local municipalities must ensure youth development as stipulated in the National Youth Policy. Comrades, the organizational challenges of recent times have undermined organization in many ways. Among such challenges were the role that the Youth League plays with regard to international solidarity. Historically, the Youth League has taken stances on matters of Western Sahara, Palestine, Swaziland, and many other global challenges. The Youth League has taken progressive stances on the North-South dichotomy. Hence, we have been in the forefront of organizations such as UCI, International Union of Socialist Youth, and the World Federation of Democratic Youth, WUFD. We are also in the forefront in establishing the Pan-African Youth Union as a youth instrument to spearhead youth development in the African continent. These are some of the reflections that National Congress must be seized with. As the youth wing of the ruling party, we must internalize challenges faced by the ANC in leading government, even beyond youth matters. It is in this way, comrades, that we can make meaningful contribution in the life of the ANC and our country as a whole. Among others, we must popularize the success that the ANC government has achieved since 1994 on matters of education, health, water provision, social grants, and other immediate provisions that cater for those outside the economic net. The government has performed better than most governments around the world. Whilst a paltry 150 million was granted as bursary in 1994, today over 8 billion rand is awarded in bursary loan mix, and this must be celebrated. But we must equally say to Comrade Blayton Zimande, he must move with the necessary speed. He must intervene in addressing challenges that are faced with NFSAS. He must address the intransigent management of universities that don't want to transform. Time to smile with this institution is over, Comrade Blade. You've got the mandate. Run, communists, run. This is our mandate. Make it happen, Comrade. You've got the mandate of the ANC government. Support the students. All these Mickey Mouse political parties that win one institution, like Fort Hare University, and celebrate for the whole year. It is because of NFSAS and our failure to address the challenges that are faced with the students. Let us run with the challenges faced with our institutions. If our government and ministers are moving very slow, comrades, do not be afraid to march and lead the marches and urge government to move with speed. That is our strategic call to you. The ANC, comrades, is advocating for a free, compulsory, non-racial education. If we are not advocating for these issues, they are going to proclaim that these struggles are theirs. We must move ANC Youth League and SASCO, champion the cause of young people in the institutions of higher learning. Don't be seized only with freshers' balls when you are sent to SRC elections. Don't be seized only with issues of sleeping with the management that does not transform. Lead the struggle of the students. Forget about the cars of the SRC. It is just a privilege for 1 year, the car of the SRC. And therefore, you will get a better car once you have graduated. The government has embarked on one of the most ambitious infrastructure programs, which is partly why our economy, comrades, was to some extent insulated against the 2008 global financial meltdown. We have not relied on the colonial apartheid development, but have massively improved road networks, and we have some of the best roads in the world. This brings me to the point, comrades, to my next point, which is the battle of ideas. Those forces we stand to gain from an untransformed economy have relentlessly waged a propaganda war against the African National Congress. It is up to the Youth League to defend the revolution. In spite of the strides we have made, even in the battle against corruption, many still seek to portray our movement in the most extreme negative light. National Congress must be seized with these challenges, including on how we can change the tide of the negative stories that are being told. But there is nothing that we can change because counter-revolution have combined efforts against our glorious movement. We must stand up, comrades, and fight in the battle of ideas. National Congress must discuss how can we seize the institutions of the media, both in terms of ownership as well as the training of progressive journalists that have deeper appreciation of the revolutionary trajectory towards the National Democratic Society. As elaborated through the NDR and the strategy and tactics of the ANC, we must never apologize for that, because the expression of the dominant ideas in the in the battle of ideas are the most reactionary, unapologetic forces, who some of them even support the opposition openly against the African National Congress. The ANC Youth League must flood the social media space, because today that is where the youth is found. And follow this Congress, hashtag ANC Youth League, hashtag uzoyithola kanjani, hashtag we are the future. Thus, as part of this propaganda, strategy, comrades. We must encapsulate platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Vine, Snapchat, and every other form of communication. Our reactionaries, that is where they are found. They contest the battle of ideas. We must engage with them. We must not be apologetic. We must take them toe for toe, unapologetically. The Youth League must be found not only on Facebook, it must be found everywhere. And Facebook must not be used to insult and derogate our organization. It must be a platform to defend our revolution. Facebook must not be a platform to undermine the leadership of the ANC and throw insults, as it has actually happened. Facebook must be the gathering of storm of all progressive-minded forces to defend the ANC and the revolution in this particular period. National Congress must be seized with the debate of whether or not we are on course towards realizing the historic objectives of the Freedom Charter. Next year is local government elections, comrades. We must tighten ourselves and get organized to engage yet in another battle. But understand that we are not formed only for an election. We've got a bigger mandate beyond that. It is important, comrades, that as the National Tax Team, we have labored as per the mandate given to us by the ANC. And here we have delivered the 25th National Congress of the ANC Youth League. It was not easy, comrades. These 6 comrades and all provincial secretaries and chairpersons of the Youth League, some who are still very young, comrade, Deputy President, and have got a great future in this organization. We have grappled together, faced every challenge, every moment. Where we have failed, comrades, we own up to our weaknesses and our mistakes. We own up to the challenges that the organization has given us a mandate to convene this particular Congress of the Youth League. You might be sitting there, not happy about this and that process, but don't take it to the heart, because this is not a love project. It is a revolutionary task. We all are going to get out of this process very strong. We will never say to the world that when we end here on the 6th of September, we will be the best. But we know that we are the best. We will work very hard every day to reclaim our glory and our space. I want to say to delegates, pay attention. The ANC will give you every support, every step of the way. There is no Premier League, comrades, that is bigger than the ANC. There is nothing like that. And when people have failed to engage in political discussions, don't allow failures to impose an agenda on you and basically say to you, you are owned by the Premier League. Comrade Rapu Mulikani, the longest serving Secretary General and the only Secretary General, I say to you and your generation, and I'm saying it here on behalf of my colleagues in the task team, it is not for the first time that the leadership of the ANC has fiddled in the Youth League affairs. But the Youth League have always been courageous to engage them and actually chart its own way forward. Do not be afraid even today. Comrades, it is in your destiny to determine what you want. We have given you a chance to express yourself to the best of our ability. And thus, as the National Task Team, we are saying again, we have labored as per the mandate given to us by the ANC. And here we have delivered the 25th National Congress of the Youth League. It has not been an easy task, and it was not going to be easy. There were always going to be suspicions of one form or the other, because we were swimming in muddied waters. But we had to swim, comrades, nonetheless. We could not, and none should betray the noble struggle for which many paid the ultimate price. In this, we were inspired by the long history of illustrious struggle, particularly iconic figures such as Solomon Mahlangu, who never gave up even in the face of death. We therefore present to you, comrades, the true custodians of this glorious organization, the reins of leadership. We are giving you the reins of leadership. We are giving you the ANC Youth League. We are giving you the African National Congress Youth League, the militant organ of the African National Congress. Look after this organization. look after yourselves, encourage the ANC at all times. The organizational report will further spell out in more details the challenges we had to deal with and the successes we made in the face of adversity. We must applaud many of you who gave us enormous support, without which failure was a certainty. Part of the challenges of the incoming NEC is to restore the integrity of the organization in terms of the soundness of internal processes. We will not tell you how, however, the answer lies in the instructive message by Che Guevara that we must study why things happen the way they do, and accordingly find appropriate answers. We are confident as the entity that we have the capacity to restore the Youth League's glory. The ANC Youth League must be felt among the youth in the length and breadth of our country. Finally, comrades, allow me to take this opportunity to thank all the members of the National Task Team. Mcebisi Skwacha, member of the Youth League, long-serving member of the ANC Youth League. Comrade Notawe Mafu, umagogo wetu, she was with us all the time. Comrade Malusi Gigaba, the longest-serving president of the ANC Youth League, uncontested and contested sometimes. Comrade Natim Tetwa, our veteran, our leader, our own man who was whipping us into line, Mzala Gamzala, Umnisi, himself, for being the coordinator of this task team and being firm sometimes and never been understood sometimes. And comrades, we worked very hard to ensure the successful convening of this conference. And all the PCs of the Youth League down to the branch. I thank you all, comrades. Some of you were a revelation. If we were not going to serve in this entity, we would have never been here. Before I'm accused about leaving out women, how can I forget Imbogoto, Pinky Muloi, the veteran of the Youth League also, through the structures of the organization. We worked, comrades. Also allow me to thank all the staff at Luthuli House that was assigned to us by the Secretary General and his General's office, who have volunteered to ensure the success of this National Congress. As per the program, the ANC President will give this keynote address to this National Congress, which will reaffirm that we are the youth of the African National Congress. I want to conclude by thanking Istwalandwe, Utatumlangeni. Tatumlangeni has not been well for quite some time. You know now that he's a retired parliamentarian. I think the youth of the ANC must be proud that from a sick bed, an old man with his stick carried himself to get to this Congress. That means a lot to this organization. And I want all of us to stand up and give Utatumlangeni a big round of applause. And I want to thank you for taking time to be with us today. And we want to wish you many, many, many more years. Comrades, this is our treasure. This is what we are left with. That shows that our organization was not born today. We can't be giving lecture about freedom. We fought for freedom. Tate Mlangeni, siyabulela, siyabulela, siyabulela. Thank you very much. Thank you, comrades. Comrades, I thank all our dignitaries and former Youth League members who were already acknowledged. And our comrades to say, hasta la victa, siempre. Victoria, siempre. Patria o muerte, we shall win. Fatherland or death, we shall win. Thank you very much, comrades. I present to you the political overview of the National Task Team. Thank you very much.